Earth, 6, okay, here we go. But these represent very distinct phases of traveling halfway across Europe, and then into, or across Asia, through Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan, and into India, and then going into the room, and being around gangs, around bad people, around different things, and moving away from not having anything, keeping traveling, going past it, not being pulled into those things. It kept me going until I ran across, even in India, I ran across some bad people, and finally I just got pulled away at the last minute and let go. Could have been a very different story. So when in the part, let's get the dates here. I got them all down. I stuck all of these in between my history, like for my points, so I have these all down exactly. 69, I'm going back up. There it is, the abysmal. So I was delivering handbills in London and got to Istanbul. Yeah, so this is about the time I got to first my touch with Asia, getting to Istanbul, then leaving Istanbul and going. I mean, in Istanbul, I had no money. I was just trying to find ways to get out of there, or to get somebody. But I finally ended up just taking the bus and using what I had. But my first run, it was a strange thing. Like, well, the culture was different for sure, and but there's people selling food on the streets and the market and stuff. But I met this one American girl. I was walking down the street. She was a blonde, beautiful young lady. We were walking, just talking. We walked 2 blocks. In that 2 blocks, 2 people came by and asked me if I wanted to sell her. I could have said yes. They would have taken her. Like, I was amazed at even the concept of that. But just at the same point, the vulnerability that she had. I didn't say that, of course. We just kept walking on. I ignored it. But there certainly were dangerous difficulties outside and inside in the middle. It wasn't like a protected environment, you know, like, so it was difficult to maintain your own being. And she was with a group of people who were there to try and experience drugs and things like that. It was like, even that was not a good influence. So, okay. So I went into so I'm just going to read through these, and I have to just remind that they give you more or less the summary as we're going through the lines. 6th place, one knows when to stop and when to let go. One does not bring problems home. Small blessings are counted, one will sleep well. Holding together with sincerity, those who believe will stay. One who does not believe. Well, in the way I didn't believe in what everyone else believed in, the drugs or whatever, I got away from anybody solicited, I just left. Aware of the dangers, one stays in the background and helps from behind. In times of purpose, a time of personal sacrifice, to claim or demand rewards will increase vulnerabilities. Well, I really had nothing. But this was the part of the let's get the exact date here. Where were we? January 8th. Yeah, this was the going across Turkey and running across the ticket guy and just lucking through that. By the 18th, by the time I went into line 2, I had met this Mani Baba, and I was in India, and we were meditating together, and he was explaining about the time, how to be alone, and I was about making the decision to go be alone. So that's when it went into line 5. It's not that you would think to do these things while you're going through that, but what happens, there's a common thread of principles and teachings going on in this, that when you're thinking about it and you're through there, it makes sense. It would help you to work through the dialogues. So why, on a personal level, it's useful. Usually you're not going down to this depth in someone's chart, but sometimes if someone is told they're going to die, they got 6 months to live, and what do they do? When you look at their chart, it's getting worse and worse, and you try to talk about transits, you're going to make it worse. You're going to want to get to something sensitive to talk about their soul, their spirit, and the purpose of things going on. Then this going to this level is incredibly useful, and people can relate to it, and it opens up the heart and the inner teachings within it. In the natal chart, these 3 levels stand as meditations or contemplations about your inner challenges. In the progressions, you've seen the evolution of it. And these lines are each for 10-day periods. So the 6th place, that's the 6th place, so we're going up to the 5th. In the 5th place, this is just as I've gone into the room. I just decided I just got into the room, or I'm just about to go into the room, surrounded by difficulties. I'm staying at this person's place. I got no money. Like, I'm just, one does the right thing. Energy is not wasted. No one is harmed, someone is helped. Bad characters will be chased away. I let go of all these other things. I ran across here and I decided, yes, I'll try this room. And I went into the room. So I aligned properly. Everyone has their story. Align with the common good. Understand the situations of others, and you'll know what's appropriate. Well, this man and another man who were both together, friends in Ferozepur when I crossed the border, they would sit down, they would talk spiritually all afternoon, and I would come to one person's business and sit there with them, and we would have these discussions for 3 or 4 days about this isn't what they believe, what I believe, what they went through, what I went through, and we were talking like that. So it was very searching in that way. But this was the inner theme of this Virgo sub is splitting apart. Everyone has their story. Everyone aligned with the common good. We understood each other, and we knew what's appropriate. So I knew, yes, I'll try and go alone. I'll try this being alone. In a position of authority, one must be firm in action and consistent in principles. It will take much effort to maintain the status quo. It would be wise to limit the amount of changes one sets in motion. So I didn't try and go places, do things, see things, ask for food, ask for anything. I didn't try to do any of that. I listened to what they were doing, and I said, yeah, I would be interested in trying that. So I left the company of a couple of people, and I went with Wani Baba to his place, and we talked about deeper things that went in, and it led me into the room, into trying the solitude. Oops, the other way. Then when it went into the fourth place, I'm in the room. Okay, now fourth place, this is, let's see the date, it's into line 4, January 28th. Yeah, really, I'm probably just started. I just started. This is probably my second week in the room, or the second half of being in this room this time. One learns not to make matters worse. There are problems to be solved. This will take time. Restrained from making critical remarks. Silence is golden. Well, I was sitting in silence. It was the first time really alone, trying to chant. And this time I did have the I Ching book with me, and one other book with me, so I had a little bit of reading, but mostly it was I was in a room. They'd made a little solitude room in a fairly large closet. In India, they had this place had the business in the front. There was a hallway, and then the houses down this long corridor in the back. And in between the two, there was this little closet. They turned that into the silence room. That's where I spent this time, really living in a closet. There was room to take 4 steps, maybe. Stand up, get the food, sit down, and at the bed you can walk with a few steps. So it really was a very small environment, but I was alone and being quiet. To accept the vulnerabilities of others, try to help, do not criticize, everyone must be included. Well, in a certain way, by being alone and in the room, I wasn't having to interact and lay my trips on what my needs on other people, whatever. I was avoiding that for a while. One's initiatives will be delayed, adjustments are necessary, compromise is appropriate. Try to help other people with their problems. Well, really, I wasn't doing that. They were helping me, but I was sitting alone, trying to chant, trying to be maintaining these 11 days. And of course, I'm inside doing this. People are outside thinking about me doing this. So there's 2 forces happening while this is going on. How come somebody's doing this? I was a young man, 22 years old then. So by the time this is finished, this is the February 8th to go into line 3. Around here, I've finished. I've come out of the room. I've come out of the room. Now what? And I know I had to go further. But still, I didn't have any money. I couldn't presume anything. You know, one eats when one should not and drinks more than is appropriate. There will be repercussions. Respect would be lost. Well, really, I wasn't eating too much. I was doing the opposite of that. I was in touch with this one. A new beginning. One returns to face the music. Consideration of the needs of others will inspire the right action. So I came out of this 11 days alone, knowing I've been alone. I had a little time alone to reflect, to do things. I came out. I still hadn't had money, didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a place to live. I was still relying on other people. But I knew I had to go further with this, that it was a new beginning. Insight without words. Trouble ahead and trouble behind. One is not prepared. Incompetence will encourage incompetence. Complete your own work well before you assess the efforts of others. So there's no way I could assess Wani Baba, who just spent 11, 12 months in this room, in a room alone. And in this little room alone. He spent that much time in it. But I really, incompetent I was out in the world. I could survive traveling, and I survived getting by, but really I was not functional. I didn't have a job. I didn't have where it was going to run out at some point. So I was sitting in this point of incompetence. So this certainly was a theme. It's not defining it exactly, but certainly the theme was going on at that time. And I knew I wanted to go further, but I couldn't go further because I didn't have any money to go for that. I had to go across India and everything. But by having spent the time alone, Wani Baba, who was so impressed that I would do that, after he spent so much time alone, he was impressed that someone, especially a Westerner, would do this, a young man would do this. He managed to take a week or so, talk to a few people, raise some money, and they paid for my train fare to Delhi and then on to Surat. You know, 2 or 3 days on the train and then a day over in Delhi. And they paid for it to take care of it, so he sent me to his guru to be able to go further with this, and they paid for my stay and for my being able to go for 3 months in this solitude room. I had no idea the cost it would be, or what it would do, or what it was doing. I had no idea. Since I was just ready to go, I was ready to follow through with this, and they were ready to support me. So I really wasn't attached to all the things. I'm just thinking about it now as we're talking about it. So in the second place, this trip going from there, 3,